Okay, brilliant. Thanks everyone for coming and checking this out. We're very excited about this release. There's a lot in it. It's quite complicated, some of it, but it's very exciting, and we're looking forward to seeing how everyone uses it. So as Chris mentioned, because there are a lot of people, if you do have some questions, I will pause at the end of each major section, and we'll take some questions then. If they start to drift too much into your particular situation, we might have to put a hold on that, and I'll be around at the end of the session to deal with individual queries, when they're more specific to you. But we'll try and answer the general questions that are of interest to everyone at the end of each section. So as Chris said, this is 2.7. We've got 3 major new updates here. The flows, which Chris has spoken about, multiple location opportunities, and find your friend. So let's head straight into the first one, flows. So flows are a really exciting new method of onboarding and controlling your volunteers' experience and collecting all that information you need during initial registration, before they join an opportunity, or any other points during the life cycle of your volunteers. It gives you a much more structured way of capturing that information and managing that information. It does have similarities to our old roles, which is what it will eventually be replacing. But the main difference is it's much, much more integrated and automated. So it has triggers, post actions, all the stuff that concerns a volunteer profile, like their ID or references and things like that. They're all integrated into the volunteer's profile. So you don't have to go to various places on the screen and manage all those things separately. You can manage them all in one place. You get alerts, you get emails, you get notified when things are happening, when things have been done, when steps have been done, and all sorts of great stuff like that. It comes with a certain number of steps which you can add. And as I said at the start, we're interested to see how people use these steps, because there's all sorts of different ways you could use them to achieve different ends. So we're looking forward to getting some feedback from you about how this works. So as I alluded to, it's very similar to roles in the sense that you define the steps that a volunteer has to do or an admin has to do. You work through those steps, you complete those steps, and then the flow is granted to that volunteer. If that flow is pre-opportunity flow, just the same as with roles, they only have to do it once. And then any opportunity that requires that role, they're automatically valid for. So it works similarly in that case to the roles. Different to the roles in that you can assign it to the post-registration. So as soon as someone registers, they get taken straight to the flow, and you can start collecting the extra information you need about onboarding, any training they need to do, any documents they have to upload, those sorts of things. So for instance, if they had to upload a certain training document or a certain ID document, you no longer have to explain to the volunteer, go here, find your dashboard, upload the document, tell us you've uploaded it, all those sorts of things. You can guide them all through it in one place. So I'm just going to show you how that looks. Excuse the screen swapping here as I swap between the presentation and the actual application. So the way you build a flow, it's very logical. You start off with the main flow details. As I've mentioned, you've got 3 types. The post-registration, which occurs every time someone registers, they go onto that flow. At a pre-opportunity stage, which is when they apply for an opportunity which is protected by that flow. And then we have flexible as well, which you can assign at any time manually. There's no trigger for that. You can pick any volunteer and put them on that flow, and they'll start. Name and description, very obvious. The assignment, this box will list all your current admins. What that means is that when a volunteer joins a flow, the admin selected in this box will be the admin that's told about that new application. So they'll get an email and say, Bob's on your flow. Can you make sure it's managed? So you can assign the task of managing the flow to an individual admin. You'll see later on as well that when an application is actually made, you can also adjust that admin. So you can assign an admin to a particular application. This first assignment is for any application to that flow. But then if required, you can alter that individually for each application. I mentioned about the actions. So we have 2 sets of actions. We've got some that occur after the flow is approved. So when it's all complete and it's all done, and you've approved it and you've ticked them off, then these actions can be triggered. We've got quite a few. We've got adding a volunteer to another flow. So as soon as they finish one flow, if there's a sequence or a series, or for some reason need to go on another flow, you can automatically add them to that flow as soon as you hit the complete button. Adding a volunteer to a group. So if we add that now, you'll see it comes up. Let me do that one so it's easy to see. And the drop-down will include all the groups that you've got in your application. The inverse of that, you can remove them from a group. We've got access. So this is great for the post-registration. So you can set your application to automatically deny access to new registrations so they can't join opportunities. But then as soon as they've gone through your post-registration flow, you can give them access without having to go to their profile and update their status. It will get updated automatically. Similarly with the inducted status, working exactly the same way. And then we've got some comms as well. So you can email an administrator when the flow is complete. So you pick the admin you want to send it to, subject, content, all the normal stuff with links and styling and all that sort of stuff. You can email the volunteer, or you could just email a nominal email address where you actually give us the email address of the person you want to send it to. So that's very useful if there's a further task to do, or if a post-registration flow, you want to get them going and you want an admin to chat to them and say, oh, you know, what sort of opportunities you're interested in, those sorts of things, if there's more hands-on sort of stuff to do. And the final bit of comms you can do is create a to-do task. So just as you create these tasks normally through the admin pages for any volunteer, you can add one here. So as soon as the volunteer has completed this flow, that to-do task will be triggered. It'll be added to the admin you specify, and it'll appear in their dashboard and if there's things you want them to do. So that's all the stuff around the actual flow itself. The description of the flow, when it's assigned, what happens when the flow is complete. Then the second half of the process are the steps you want the volunteer or the admin to carry out. And you add them in the second column here. So the ones you've got at the minute are uploading ID documents. Now that step is linked to the profile flag for ID. So this is an ID task. Every task, every step has a name that you can give it and also a set of instructions. The instructions can contain links. So if you need to send a volunteer to a particular page, or to download a document, or to go to a training site, those sorts of things, you can put those things in the instructions so they know exactly where they're going. Every task has a toggle to say if the volunteer can process it, because you may have tasks that you want the admin to do, and only the admin to do. If that toggle is off, the volunteer will not see this step. They will not be able to process it, and they will not be able to see it. There's also a further toggle. Sorry, that's not right. If this toggle is not set, the volunteer won't be able to process the task. But there's a secondary toggle which hides it completely from the volunteer. Sorry, my mistake. And I built it, and I still make the same mistake. So you can hide it from the volunteer completely, or you can just mark it so the volunteer can't actually process the task. Because sometimes you want them to see a step, let them know that something's happening, but they don't actually have to process it. So in the case of an ID step here, we're going to tell them how many pieces of ID took. So say 2. We're going to give them some instructions. Please upload a photo driving license, passport, or other photo ID, and some form of proof of address. But obviously, these instructions can be whatever suits you. This is just for example's sake. And we're going to let the volunteer process that task, and we're going to save it. Similarly to the flow completion over here, every step itself also has some actions that are triggered when that individual step is completed by the admin. And here we've got email the admin, email a random person, or create that to-do task as a step is completed. Say that. The next type of task is an upload file task. So it's similar to an ID task in that you have to tell it how many documents they can upload. But here you are going to tell them what sort of document it is. Now, I don't know if you remember from the volunteer's dashboard or your own admin dashboards, when the volunteer uploads documents, they can select what sort of type of document it is. This just helps you organize documents, gives you an idea of what they are beforehand. It doesn't actually make any difference to the document that's uploaded. It's just how we handle it and where we store it. I'll show you later on how it works on the volunteer side, but all these documents that get uploaded go into the volunteer profile just as if they'd gone to the dashboard and uploaded them separately. They get locked, so only the admin can manage them at that point, although the admin's free to unlock them afterwards. And they'll be attached to their profile. So when you go to the volunteer themselves, you'll be able to see the documents. But you can also see them in this context here in the processing page, which we'll get to later. The next step is custom question. How this works is any custom profile questions you have, you can present to the volunteer in a flow. It won't be the registration questions because they've already answered those because they've been registered, evidently. So this drop down here will contain all your custom profile questions for the volunteer. And you simply select the question, again, give them some instructions, and make sure the volunteer can process it. And once again, that answer is connected to their profile and will appear in all your searches and everywhere else without any further interaction from the admin. Book a meeting is a little different because obviously we can't prepare the meeting as part of the flow description. It has to happen, that work has to happen when the person's applied, because you might be creating the flow in January and no one applies for it until March. So you can't set a meeting up ahead of the time. So this task will present to the volunteer the meeting as you've arranged it, if you've arranged it so far, or it will tell them that an admin will arrange a meeting at some point. So we'll come back to that when I show you how to process the application. But for now, just understand that this gives a slot, a little space in the flow for you to insert a meeting that the volunteer can see and they'll get alert about it. And the meeting, again, works exactly the same way as if you had done it independently and separately in another part of the application. It's stored on the volunteer's profile. They get an email about it, all the rest of it. Collecting references. This will be super useful for a lot of people. This drop down here will contain all your references. Again, it works exactly the same way as when you create a reference in the reference section. You select the form you want the referee to complete. They tell the volunteer how many referees you want them to add, and you save the task. When the volunteer comes to process that application and sees that task, they will have a box to put in the referee's email address, the referee's name, and everything from that point is automatic and occurs and happens just as if you create the reference separately. It gets attached to their profile. It can be used for opportunities, all the rest of it. And again, we'll go through how you process that when we look at the next section. And finally, the manual background check. We hope to get digital checks in here as well at some point, but for now, it's just starting the manual background check. You're going to ask the admin to start those checks and record that the volunteer has those background checks in place. And again, it's attached to their profile. So setting it up is fairly logical, but understanding how each of these steps might work and might interact with each other and how you might use them to achieve your ends, that's the sort of interesting bit. And that'll probably take a bit of fiddling and things like that. For all the people that already use roles, initially roles and flows will appear side by side. So you won't lose your roles. I will be contacting everyone that's currently using roles separately, so we can start to convert those roles into flows, because there's no automated way of doing that. We want to make sure that you take advantage of the triggers and automations that flows offer. So we're going to help all of you to convert your current roles into flows, and they'll work exactly the same, but hopefully they'll take a lot of the work out of it for you. So don't worry right now about converting your flows or rushing to do it. You'll be able to apply them at opportunities all the same as you've been doing so far. We will help you convert those. Okay, so let's see what it looks like for a volunteer on the volunteer side. So we're going to have, we've got this volunteer here called Akeem, who's already on the flow we've just been looking at, and on their dashboard. Dashboard you're all familiar with. If a team had only just registered and we were using a post-registration flow, they wouldn't see their dashboard because as soon as they register, they get taken to the flows and applications page, which looks a bit like this. And this is where they would go immediately after registration. So they hit the flow they want to start processing. You can see here all these badly named steps that I've added to that flow are mirrored to the volunteer, at least if I've selected that they can see them. So for, let's pick the, I don't know. Actually, I put them on a different flow. Just hold on a second. Okay. I'm going to just adjust this ID step so that they do have to upload some ID so you can see what it looks like. You can see here it just says 1 for the, I've only got 1 here for the number of IDs, so we're going to up that to 2. Save it. If we go back here. Okay, we're back. So the task is now incomplete. Sorry, I partially completed it. It's my fault. Okay, so we can see here that the volunteer has already uploaded 1 piece of ID here. And the task itself asks for 2. So we've still got 1 form field left to choose another document. So I'm going to upload the next document. Give it a name. Save it. We can see a few things have happened here. So the inputs for uploading more files have disappeared because we've got 2, so we don't need any more. The documents now have a delete link next to them. So if they've made a mistake, they can delete one of the documents. And once that's finished deleting, it'll go back to where it was. So now we've got the form field again. And if we delete that document, we'll end up with 2 form fields. So the volunteer can correct mistakes if they make them. Let's upload these again. And we can see we're back to where we were before, and the task has gone orange, which means that it's completed by the volunteer. The volunteer's done their stuff, but it's not yet been approved by the admin. Okay. So if you go back to the admin screen for processing that flow, which is here, just do a quick refresh. So you can see that we've got an orange step here because they've uploaded the ID, but we don't need to go somewhere else to see the ID documents they've uploaded. Okay, so we don't need to go into their dashboard and hunt for the documents and find the ones they've just uploaded. They're associated with this step in the flow. And we can review the documents, see them full size, check them out. And if we wanted to, everything's fine, then we can just complete the task. Task will go green. It's done a couple of things there. It's completed the task. It'll also complete it on the volunteer side. If we go here, you can see now that task is green. And the delete options have disappeared because it's now been completed. So we don't want the volunteer now removing those documents after the fact. And it's also updated their profile. So their profile, because it's an ID task, their profile will now say that their ID has been checked. So if I share this tab instead, you can see here that their identification has been verified. So that step allows them to upload the ID. It allows you to check the ID all in one place. It allows you to confirm the ID, and it allows you to set their ID verification flag all in the one place. Okay. So a lot of the other tasks, they all follow the same sort of pattern. So here we've got the custom question, which is a file question to upload. This is a drop-down question we're asking to answer. They just select the option and hit save. And then that option, if we change it to 3, we go back to their profile, reset their profile. If you go down to their custom questions, you'll see the answer there. It's option 3. So that illustrates how it's all tied together, and they only need to be in one place to achieve all these things. Okay. The reference task I'll show just for completeness sake. So works the same as the upload task. Because there's 2 references asked for, we get 2 sets of boxes. If we save one, It asks me, no, we need 2. You go through the other side of the box as well. So in the background, what that's done is it's sent an email to the 2 referees asking them to fill out the reference form. If we go back again to the admin side, we can see here that task has been completed by the volunteer because it's gone yellow. For the drop down the question, and we can see here that this one's gone yellow, which is the reference question. And here we can see the reference details. So again, we don't need to hunt them out. We don't need to go over here and go to the reference section, find the volunteer and check their references. And they may have multiple references and some won't have anything to do with this flow. It's all there in front of you when you're processing the flow. So you can see the reference, you can see what state it's in. You can resend it if it's not been completed yet. If it has been completed, you can edit it and check the answers and change them before you prove it. As soon as you hit complete task, it'll complete that task, it goes green, and those references are now approved. They're empty in this case, but they're being approved. So they're valid for everywhere else where they need a reference, including future flows. Okay, so that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour, I suppose, because we can't spend hours on it. Has anyone got any questions? I'm sure people do.
I'll go for the questions that come in the chat first. If people have additional questions, they can
yeah, if you can use the raise hand icon at the bottom, because then we can go through people if they've got questions.
So Jake sent a question in. Could you upload a document for a volunteer to agree to, i.e. a volunteer code of conduct?
You can't upload it within the item itself, but you could upload it to the resources or your email attachments area and link to that document. So if you were, let me switch to this tab. So we're going to edit this task. So you'd use an upload file task, and in here you create the link to where that document's stored, wherever that is. And in the instructions, you just say, please download this document, complete it, and upload it back here, or just read it and confirm you've read it, those sorts of things. But you can't actually put the file in the flow task itself, but you can link to the file.
Can admins, this is from Matthew, can admins upload documents on behalf of a volunteer as he has some that aren't particularly tech savvy?
Yeah, the option's always there to impersonate the volunteer and do the steps for them if you want. It didn't seem efficient to replicate all that here when processing the application. But yeah, you can simply just impersonate the volunteer and upload them there.
Okay. Ellie was also thinking, I think she referred to your solution, Rob, about using the hyperlink to link out to the documents, which is great. And Jake, again, if a task is overdue, are there automated reminders?
Yeah, I've got a whole list of enhancements to do to this as we're going already, and hopefully we'll get some great ideas from you guys as well. And one of those is about what to do when tasks are overdue. So automated things about, well, this task has been 2 weeks and you've not done anything on it, or this task has been completed by the volunteer for X amount of time and the admin's not completed it. All those sorts of notifications that we're working on as well. And yeah, part of that will be as a due date for this task to be completed for the admins and for the volunteers, I guess. But yeah, more stuff coming about dates and lengths of time and notifications.
Emily has asked a question, what if you have different reference forms?
When you create the task, which one's the reference one? I should have named them better. So you can select the form to collect, but you can't collect 2 different types of form in the same step, but you can have 2 reference steps and just put one form in one and one form in another.
Shaquille, what will happen to our old role applications?
Okay, so all the old stuff, we will, as I mentioned, I'll get in touch with everyone that's using roles and has active roles, and we'll help you convert those into flows. We will assume that all the people that have already done the roles, because no information is really stored about the volunteer and about those steps in roles, we will just assume they've completed all the steps in the new role. So going forward, they will have the same the same access as anyone that has completed the role. They just won't have the information stored. It's up to you if you want to retrospectively go and collect some of that information. You could do that also.
Another one here. How do you set up a flow? When setting up the opportunity, as an admin, I can see the flow applications, but how do I get started? I've not used roles.
I didn't neglect to show you that. So the flows are in the super admin menu. So only super admins can set them up, but all admins can process the applications. So yeah, you just hit that in the super admin menu and you get to the
show that role on the screen.
I'm not sharing the wrong tab, aren't I? So super admin menu in the cog, and you'll see flows down here. Hit flows, and you'll get to this screen, which is where you add and edit flows. Just something to point out, it is mentioned on the screen. So post-registration flows, you can evidently, well, maybe not evidently, but you can only have one at a time active, because there's no choice, there's no pathway to choose what post-registration flow people are on. So only one can be active at any single time. So if you create one and then create another one, it tells you, it gives you a warning on screen, but it will deactivate the old one and activate the new one.
Okay, and can trusted providers process flows or only admins?
Right now, only admins, but that's an option we can add if there's a call for it.
Okay. Lot on flows, appreciate it. It's a big new feature area, and the potential of it is quite large. The impact it can have on how you can customize that journey and is pretty big, and we're really excited to see how people do use it. But we do appreciate it creates a layer that's more complicated than we currently have, if you will, because you have these custom journeys that you can have for different people in different parts of the system. So we're really keen to hear your feedback on how you find it. If people maybe get lost in it and you're not aware where it works well and where it's struggling, if you can let us know, that'd be really, really helpful. Your feedback will really help us shape the next version, the next version, next version. We hope to keep on adding more and more automations, more and more triggers, to the point where you have a really customizable volunteer experience, pretty much on on every type of opportunity you may offer. Because we think that's the reality of what volunteering is like out there in the real world. Is there's lots and lots of different ways to get to the end point. So we need to make sure that's reflected in our system. So any feedback, any ideas you have, pop them in a support ticket. Rolf will pick them up, and we look forward to seeing what you're able to build. Has anybody got any other questions? I've not seen any hands up, but I can only see a small selection of. Oh, here we go.
Ali.
Ali, do you want to shout out your question?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can.
So are admins the same as providers?
No.
As far as I'm concerned. No.
Oh.
Okay. So.
Did you say your admins are the same as providers or our admins?
You're using the word admin, so there's two admins, but we have providers who run our opportunities. So I'm just thinking terminology. Is a provider an admin and therefore able to use this facility?
No. But as mentioned just a few minutes ago, there's the potential to allow trusted providers to process applications. There's the potential to let all providers process applications. That would probably be pretty rare because a lot of people have providers that are more hands-off or arm's reach, rather. Hands-off, arm's reach. But yeah, potentially we could allow trusted providers to process applications.
Okay, so you can click on them and I can't go back to the hang on. Yeah, so you can assign to an admin. So once you've and that is all my providers are coming up. Oh, and the pods. Okay, all right, I've got that. So anybody who runs a pod,
yes,
and the admins.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Emily made a good point. We volunteers understand what is meant by flows as opposed to the word role.
They won't know instinctively the difference. So there will be some work in letting people know. So again, for the people that are currently using roles, once we've got those converted into flows, it's a worthwhile exercise of putting together some comms. We can help with the detail, with the technical detail. But yeah, it would be advisable to pop out some emails to let everybody know, what the changes are. They will get instruction on screen. So if you do join, if you do place a volunteer on a role, or they join an opportunity that requires a role, they do get an email explaining them where to go with the links to start processing that flow. But it will be new to them for sure. So some comms would definitely be helpful.
The reason we chose flows is it's a workflow. That's where it comes from. The workflow that the volunteer has to complete to become enabled, if you will. So that's where that word came from. But again, we are open to feedback. So if,
there's another great idea here straight away about assigning flow actions to providers. There's no reason you shouldn't. I just didn't put it in for whatever reason. But yeah, you can email providers from it. We can add that. So yeah, I think that's a good idea, Katie. We can definitely do something around that.
Do we want to move on to multiple location?
Okay. So when everyone's got the link to the workbook. There's some more examples in the workbook, and some text and stuff helping you go screenshot and things to help you do this after the presentation. All the things you see on the screen you've seen in real life. This is something I just want to draw your attention to. Chris has mentioned it. If you could put the link in the messages as well for me, Chris. So this is an extended sort of guide around building your first flow and helping you get through that first difficult step. Okay, next thing, multiple location ops. So, I just wanted to say as well, I don't know if anyone were on the call, but the flows, I want to say thank you to the people up in NHS Scotland. If any of them are here, they've been fantastic helping us co-develop the flows for their NHS hospitals up there. And we figure if it's good enough for the NHS, it should be good enough for everybody. And similarly, for the multiple location ops, I can't see Mark here, so I want to say thanks to Mark for helping us co-develop this for the Commonwealth Graves charity that came directly out of requirement that they had, because they have very, very many graves throughout Europe and North America that are looked after by veterans, by people. Okay, so yeah, multiple location ops. This is a much simpler concept. It shouldn't take as long, I hope. So you probably, many of you probably come up against the issue where you've got a situation where you've got a very similar opportunity, or maybe an identical opportunity, like maybe working in a charity shop. In Mark's case, it was attending grave sites and checking that they're okay, where the actual role, the task, the opportunity, whatever you call it, is identical. But they're all over the place. They're in lots of different locations. And currently, there's no way to add multiple locations to an opportunity. So you would have had to manage multiple opportunities for those multiple locations. So what we've done is created a system where you can have multiple locations on an opportunity. So everything's simpler. You admin everything in one place. You don't need to have multiple opportunities. It's up to you how you split your opportunities down. You may want to put all the locations in one, or you may want to regionalize it and put all one cities in one opportunities and other cities in other opportunities. Entirely up to you. There's no limit to the number of, there's practically no limit to the number of locations you can have an opportunity. There's obviously a point where it becomes daft, but it's entirely up to you how you split it up. So we're going to go through how you create it and what it looks like. Again, the workbook has all these details as slides, so you can refer to it later on, but we're just going to have a quick whiz through what it looks like. Okay, so nothing special. When you create the opportunity, there's just another option to say yes to multiple locations. I've already prepared one earlier, so we'll just go through this quickly. Okay, so under the pick location section, you've got this new option, which is, does this opportunity have multiple locations? It's important to note, again, it's in the tooltip as well. Make sure you, if you forget, you can always read the tooltips. This only supports flexible opportunities. It doesn't make as much sense for sessional opportunities because they would have to make a lot of choices about each session they join and then which location for that session. So currently, it only supports flexible opportunities. Now, that may change in the future, but that's where we are now. So if you say yes here, but then at the end create a sessional opportunity, it won't allow it to have multiple locations. Okay, so if you select yes, a little bit more instruction here. And the first thing you do is give your first location a name. We're going to call it Snowdonia, and a reference. So the reference is really for you. Only the admins see the reference for that location. Doesn't have to have anything in it. It can be empty if you like. But the location name is shown to the volunteers. So that's visible to the volunteers. that helps them with the actual location. Then we're just going to find the location, and the rest of the process is exactly the same as if you were creating a regular opportunity. So we're just going to whiz through this. Just remembering that when you get to the end, it has to be a flexible op. Okay, so that's all there is to it in terms of creating the opportunity and making it eligible for multiple opportunities. We're going to switch to an opportunity that has this switched on now. So to an admin, the big difference is when you go to the sessions page, normally on a flexible op, you just see the one session detail that is the backbone of a flexible op, how many people are on it, those sorts of things. What you see now is a split screen between a table of the locations and a map showing you all those locations. Okay, so you've still only got one session, so everyone's joining the one session on a flexible op, but now you've got all these different locations. All the existing locations, they have a little indicator to say what status they're in. So red means they're empty, blue means they're full, I think, and green means they're partially full. Any location in this list, you can just click on the location indicator and it zooms the map in and shows you where it is. Conversely, you can click on the location itself and go back the other way. If you hit the manage button, this is where you can do everything to do with that particular location. So we can add a person to that location. So stick them in. We can change the number of slots available on that location. We can edit the location's details. We can update the latitude and longitude if it's wrong, if Google Maps picked the wrong place. And we can remove a volunteer. So if we add another one here, you can see they come in there, and we can just remove them the same way. So super simple management. Right now, in terms of adding locations, you just click on the map. I mean, I think that location I just dropped is probably in a gully somewhere off Snowdonia, but very simple to add a new location. And again, you can manage it and give it extra slots just the same way. It's instant. We're aware that some people may have lots of locations. We don't have an automatic method of uploading lots of locations at the minute. But if you are in that situation where you've got hundreds or even the high tens of locations, and it's tedious to click on the map and add them individually, just get in touch via a support ticket and I can sort that out for you. And if that becomes a common scenario, then we'll build something for uploading those files. I'm pretty sure you won't have as many as Mark's got, which is thousands on some of these opportunities. But yeah, don't be clicking the map 1,000 times. That's insane. Just open a support ticket and let me know. For the volunteer, what they see is something very similar. So we're going to share the tab instead. So again, they get the same split screen view. It's a slightly different map because we don't use Google Maps on the front end. They charge too much money. They will see the locations. Let's just refresh this so we can see the second one as well that we've just added. Same idea. They can zoom in. They can hit the icons. They can check out the locations. They can check out the names, see what they're called. Very similar to the admin side. And all they need to do is hit join. Something to look out for here. You'll see this on all the opportunities for sessions and on both the pages before they join the opportunity and when they manage the opportunity. It's just a quick filter. So they can search for sessions this way. We'll come back to that a bit later on. Super useful. So they just hit join. And from that point on, it's the same as whenever else they join an opportunity. So in their manage opportunities screen, instead of seeing a list of sessions, they see a list of locations. And they can leave a location, they could join a location. They only get shown locations that have space. So very simple to use, very easy to use, very easy to set up, but very, very useful. Okay. Anyone got any questions about that?
A few questions come through. Ellie from the Gloucestershire Wildlife Trust is very keen to see this extended out to sessional-based ops, as that reflects more their current working practice. What I have suggested, there's also, I'm not sure who Test Volunteer 1 is, but Test Volunteer 1, who's come through, they were asking about the but this is distinct from opportunities with different sessions. What I suggested there was you may use this to be able to enable people to filter first where they want to volunteer, and then have a separate opportunity for that location with the sessions on it. So you could potentially use this to help people find in the search what they're looking for, then have a closed opportunity you can add them to once they've identified the location they want to do it with the sessions on. So you can use two opportunities together to get the result you want. We know it's not quite perfect, and we've taken sort of Ellie's feedback and popped it into our future thinking list.
Yeah, the difficulty with having it on sessional opportunities is not really a technical difficulty. It's more of a sort of interface and how would they choose, because we can't. If you've only got one or two locations, it's not that difficult. But if there are 100 locations, the volunteer would have to choose the session they're on and then go through the 100 locations and choose a location. And then every time they join a session, they'd have to do the same thing. So it's more of a sort of interface overload issue than it is a technical issue. But we can start experimenting. What we come up with.
Yeah. Ali, can I add this to a flexible opportunity already set up?
I wouldn't, because then I don't suppose it matters, does it? The problem is if you use an existing one, for all the volunteers that are on it will still need to go through the process of choosing which location they want to join. So yeah, you can, but you probably have to send some comms to those volunteers. They'd have to go to this page, because they'd already be on the opportunity, but they'd have to go to this page and join the locations that they wanted to join after the fact. But that's possible, yeah.
Claire from Manchester, how will this impact on the reporting as we report opportunities by ward?
You'll still get the same information out in terms of the number of volunteers and the number of hours. They log hours in the same way and the number of volunteers in the same way. We're still experimenting to some extent how this works in terms of sessions. There's only one session and it'll still be classed as a flexible op. So we don't know if we're going to spin out the locations as sort of pseudo sessions, and say that, for the number of sessions that people have been onto, wherever you see that in the reporting. Right now, these are, even if they join 10, 20, 30 locations, it would only count as one session still, which isn't a totally accurate representation of what's happening on the ground. But for most reporting, it doesn't make any difference. It's all the same.
And then Ali's asking, would she delete her old opportunity and start again?
Yeah, that's what we just spoke about.
Yeah.
There's no reason you can't convert it into a multiple opportunities location, and add the locations. But then you'll probably have to email everyone on that opportunity and tell them retrospectively to go and join the locations that they're interested in.
Okay, I think unless anyone's got any other questions, they want to pop the hand up and ask directly. There we go. Ali, yep, go for it.
Just quickly, on the page I can see, Rolf, there's nothing that says volunteers. So do you get like a drop-down menu of all the volunteers on this multiple location?
Yeah, so in the same, let me share this tab. Which one is it? It's this one. So here you have the volunteer list the same as previously.
Right, and then
so all that works the same. On the session list, at the bottom, what it does is it tells you, it will repeat the volunteer here. So if we add a key to both of them.
But can you distinguish between the volunteers on the second location and the one on mountain location?
Yes, if I just refresh this, now that he's added to both. So you can see Akeem is repeated twice with the name of the location next to his name. Okay,
but I can't click. Can you go to mountain? Will it be different? So
this is the name. So the names here, these are the names here in Snowdonia. So Akeem is on
both, so
he's got here and Snowdonia, whereas in Drio's only got Snowdonia.
Okay, but they're not split into two different tabs, or you can't. So if you had like 10 or 12 up there, you'd have to go through the list yourself to see who's on here, who's on. No,
Snowdonia. you just hit manage, and it tells you who's on the location here.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Okay, great stuff. And we're on to the last of the big three.
The next thing is we're calling it Find a Friend. So it's all about volunteers. This came from Royal Parks. So again, shout out to anyone here from Royal Parks for helping with this. They've got a situation where their rangers, they look after all the parks in London, the Royal Parks in London, massive. So they've got a situation where their rangers that go out on these opportunities, they like to go with their friends for obvious reasons, but they don't know which session their friends are on. So that's where this came from. So what this allows you to do is mark an opportunity as eligible for sharing information. And you've also got some options about what information to share. And it means that any logged in volunteer can see who's on the session before they join the session. Okay, so they can check out their friends, and if their friends are on it, they can join that session. Again, pretty simple, but super useful. So again, we'll go through how you mark an opportunity. So again, we're going to whiz through this. I've got one already created. I'll just show you where it is. It's under the promotion and sharing options, as you might imagine. We've got here, allow volunteer information sharing. Again, a little tooltip reminding you of what this will do. And you just hit yes. This is applicable for flexible and sessional opportunities, doesn't matter. And carry on creating opportunities as normal. So super simple to set up. I've got one already done, so I can show you. So for an admin, it doesn't look any different, because obviously you already know who's on all the sessions. So for you guys, it doesn't look any different. So the admin pages are identical. But for a volunteer, so we've got the opportunity here, find a friend op. So this is an opportunity that we have already said is valid for this sharing. As an admin, I've selected the option. I'll show you the options in a minute, explain what they all do, so it's valid. And when this volunteer looks at the sessions, they can see all the other people that are on the sessions. We've got all the options on, so that means they can see the name of the person, they see the little photo, they can see a contact number, and they can also click on the name of the person and send them a quick message. Okay, but those are optional things which we'll go through in a second. It's important to note at this point that after chatting, when we were during the beta phase, we spoke about opting in and opting out and what would be the best thing to do. What we've decided to do is everybody is opted out by default of this sharing. The first time a volunteer joins an opportunity where the sharing is enabled, they will get an email asking, explaining what it is and asking if they want to opt in with a link. They follow that link, they opt in. They only get that email once, the first time they join, or if for some reason they've opted out at a later date, and they'll get the email again. So they only get the email if they're currently in an opted out status. For each individual volunteer, from their dashboard, the same places they opt in and out to the emails, they can go to their notifications and permissions, and they've got a section at the end for sharing details or not. Okay, so any volunteer can opt in or out at any time, and they're also given the option to opt in when they first join the opportunity as well. So there shouldn't be any issues with permissions for volunteers. And the list of volunteers that people see when they're looking at the opportunity is only those people that are opted in. So this is a demo site. We've opted everybody in so they can see them all. Okay, so it's only volunteers that are opted in who have their information shared. We only share the information that you allow us to share via your admin options, and they will only see the volunteers that have opted in. Those are the three sort of key points to keep in mind. On the admin side, in the options section, they're all under the opportunity section, and right now they're all at the bottom. So you've got one option to switch it on or off. So if that says no, then you won't be able to create an opportunity which has the sharing option set to yes. Typo. And then you've got the options for what information is shared. So you've got the messaging, whether you can click on the name and send a message. You've got the mobile contact information, yes or no. And then you've got whether logged in volunteers can see the information before they join the opportunity. So you can restrict it to only volunteers that have already joined at least one session, if you want to make it a bit more private. Okay, and it's only logged in volunteers that can see this information anyway. So a random, just browsing the site, can't see that information. Any questions about that?
Somebody had one about whether or not it's optional to share the phone number, which I think you just covered. It is optional. Any other questions on that one? It's a big thing of ours that, you know, that volunteering is the digital part of it is great, but we want to try and encourage that social connection. That the reason people volunteer is, you know, fundamentally about doing something for somebody else. So, and we feel that this feature is going to be available in all our versions. This is Enterprise, all the way down to our free version. So, because we think it's that important, volunteers should be able to communicate with each other and talk to each other and recognise who's doing what, where, and when. There's a few questions coming through. Can this be taken down to granularity of location-based opportunities? I.e., we have an opportunity which is east of England, and then we have many locations. For us, it might be of interest when volunteers are close.
I didn't understand that. Sorry. Is that about multiple,
I'll let you
about multiple locations, or
can you? So, can it be location related as well? Is what Mark's asking because he's got so many.
Oh, no, it would have to be across the whole lot for this particular feature. It's not based on location. All or nothing, I'm afraid, at this point.
Ellie, it's quite a long question, Ellie, and maybe it's one we address directly with her rather than here.
Yeah, that's fine. It was more just you know, something to consider. I'm not saying it's not a good piece of work. I think it's great. It's just you'd have to think really carefully how, you know, you police certain things, just in case there's, you know, an issue. But no, it is. It's really interesting.
Yeah, we wavered a long time because there's no technical challenge to this feature at all, really. But quite a lot of oh my god moments. What if it all goes terribly wrong? Challenges.
Yeah. Can I, Ali? Can I set this up with opportunities that are already set up?
Yes. Karen, yes. By default, it's off. So you have to go to your options and switch it on. But for right now, it's off for everybody. Anyone else for any more? Can't see any hands up. Okay, brilliant. So there are a few other things to go through just to let you know they're happening. Same again for the document. When you read it, you've got plenty of instructions there for afterwards. So we've got some other things going on as well. Every update, it's always worth checking out the filters in the search areas for volunteers, opportunities, and providers. I often add these ad hoc as people need them. Sometimes it doesn't wait for a release. They get merged quite quickly because someone needs them on the spot. So it's always worth having a look here at new ones that have been added. So a good one that's been added recently was the current volunteer. So that picks up all the volunteers that are active on opportunities but have not been marked as finished yet. So if you have a volunteer on 2 opportunities and they've been marked as finished on both those opportunities, they wouldn't be classed as current. If you've got a volunteer on 2 opportunities and they've been marked as finished on one of those opportunities, they would still be classified as current. So have a little play with that one. As I mentioned earlier on about the session filtering, so this is super useful. If I just find an opportunity with lots and lots of sessions on it, just bear with me while I do that. So this is really useful for when you've got a sessional opportunity which has an awful lot of sessions, or maybe it has multiple sessions each day at different times, or multiple sessions in a week at different on different days. That's that sort of thing. So I just share this tab here. So we've got a lot going on this screen because we're sharing everything. So this, for instance, has opportunities on Tuesdays and Wednesdays every week, but the volunteer may only be interested in Tuesdays. So they can just type Tuesdays in here and it'll filter all the results. So they only see Tuesdays opportunities, or maybe they don't want to see opportunities that are in April. And it'll filter all the ones that are in April. So really, really useful when you've got lots of sessions. absolutely useless if you just got a flex block because there's only one session. But you'll see this on the opportunity management page when they're already joined a session, and also when they're browsing a session as well. I don't know if everyone is aware, but each provider has a certain amount of information that's associated with that provider. So they've got a name, an initial contact email address, the profile and all that sort of stuff. But each provider, if you've enabled it, can also create extra users. So you might have 3 people, excuse me, might have 3 people in Office, and they all log into the same provider account using different users. Previously, the admin, if they wanted to see that information, they've had to impersonate the provider, but we've added it to the provider screen, so you can just hit the user section and see whatever extra users they've created, edit them, delete them, all that sort of stuff. We've done some work on the global search area as well. So previously, related to the last thing, if a provider had multiple users, you'd sometimes get multiple providers come up in the global search, because it would find multiple users. Because say you were looking at their email address, it would find 3 users related to one provider, and it looked like it was just duplicating the provider, but it was actually in the background 3 users of one provider. So we've got rid of that, and you can also search for volunteer IDs. That'll be useful for people that use CRMs a lot and have a lot of reports knocking around. So if you've only got the ID of the volunteer, you can tap it in there and find them as well. You can see in this picture here. Kyla Decker is number 276. With National Trust Scotland, we've been developing some more work on the expenses page. So we've added a couple of extra fields for the admins. So previously we just had 1 nominal field you could fill in, but we've got 3 now. If there's different things you need to fill in, because a couple of our customers used to use a divider, like a slash or a ellipsis or something, to divide the different columns. So you've got 3 now that you can put in. They're completely nominal. They can be anything you want. And on the volunteer side, as well as the vehicle used now, we're also asking whether they're car sharing. So it's getting more common now that people need to know about carbon usage and things like that. So car sharing is one of those things that people are starting to be interested in. We've also updated the mobile app to reflect those new fields. So that's in line. And also update the mobile app so it'll accept their bank account and sort code and stuff as well. So that's all been tidied up. Another place always to look after every release is the options and permissions page. So permissions, for anyone who's on the enterprise version, is the way you can define what sections of the application that admins can access. That always gets updated with new permissions. That's always worth a look. And there's some new options as well around the volunteer share. There's some permissions around DEI information for volunteers, like their ethnicity and things like that, whether regular admins can see them. There's a new option about defaulting to requiring a reference for new opportunities. So it's worth having a look around that screen. On the options pages at the bottom section, there's something called the cheat sheet. And if you hit that and hit print, you get a nice long list of all the options and what they do, which you can stick on your wall. Okay, that's it. Sorry, we overran a bit. There are some other things knocking around as well, small things. There's lots of quality of life improvements. You can impersonate a volunteer from more places and more menus now. All those sorts of little things, little bugs and things that get fixed. So if anyone's got any questions and wants to hang around, got any questions about how this specifically applies to them, I'll be here for the next half hour or so. But otherwise, thank you very much. Have fun. Go and try everything. If you're unsure and you want to test it out, remember you could log into the beta site or you can log into the demo site. I'll paste both those in a sec. I'll just get them up now and paste them for you. So right now, these 2 sites are the same because there's been no development since this release, obviously. But you can always get on the demo site and try these features out without risk of damaging anyone or emailing anyone. Just be aware that they are public in the sense that they're quite easy to log into. So don't use personal information when you're testing. Okay, well, thanks very much. Hope you find all that interesting and get some good use out of it. And I'm very interested to hear what you've got to say about the flows, any great ideas you have, any aha moments you feel. Open those support tickets and let us know.